Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode to the Galaxy Pod, hosted by yours truly, Slim. Normally I be with my guy Scotty, but we switch things up as I uh, here to talk about the Golden State Warriors. Haven't been talking about them since they got put out in the play-in tournament. But I said, what's a better time to discuss them with a special guest? So I reached out and got my guy Justin, but I'll introduce him in a minute here. But yeah, but make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you're watching the video, make sure to comment and let us know that you're checking in. But without further ado, welcome to the show, Justin. He got his own podcast thing going on, the Golden Spaces. I'll make sure to leave a link to his Twitter page and his YouTube channel and everything like that. But welcome to the show, bro.
Appreciate you having me. Yeah, it's no better time, I guess, to talk about the Warriors because they haven't been doing nothing since was it early May? I don't even remember the date, but
Yeah, man. I said I had to reach out to get somebody else to discuss it with me and not by myself. But yeah, man. But let's dive right into it though. So with the Golden State Warriors, if you had one word to describe the Warriors season, what would it be?
one word. I don't even know if this is one word, but I say eye opening. I guess that's like you put a hyphen in the middle, it makes it one
Yeah,
word. But
yeah,
yeah, I'd say eye opening for sure. I think they went into the season thinking one thing about their team and where it was in comparison to the last two seasons, and they realized it wasn't really the same type of dynamics going on.
yeah.
Um, you look at the 2023 season, they had one of the best starting fives in the league,
Right.
and their bench kind of let them down in the playoffs. So they bolstered their bench coming into this season, kept the starters the same, and then the starters kind of fell off. So it was real eye opening. That's I guess that's how I boil it down.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, man. I mean, you broke everything down perfectly. For me, I would just say it was like kind of rocky in a sense. Like this season, like those guys, they showed times where they can be great, and then they showed times where it was just bad out there, man. And it was just a lot, man. From Draymond getting suspended to the Kaminga, Steve Kerr button heads about the minutes and whatnot. So yeah, if I had to describe it, it would definitely be rocky. I mean, I'll say that I don't know if you remember, but back in November when they played the Sacramento Kings, I think it was the Malik Monk game winner, something like that. But that game there kind of opened my eyes, like man, I'm gonna have problems because obviously CP3 and GP2 went down in that game, but we still had
Mhm.
that game won. Moses, he was the only one hitting shots in the fourth quarter. Steve Kerr yanked him out the game. And then it just was a bad way to lose, like the way we were just constantly just allowing the Kings to get back in it. But yeah, from that game on, I knew we was going to have serious issues for sure. But yeah, you hit it right on the head, man, for sure. But speaking of the Kings, um, obviously we lost to them in the play-in tournament. So how was you feeling about the way that the Warriors ultimately ended their season in the play-in tournament?
I mean, looking back on it, it's like it was sense of almost like relief in the moment because it's like, well, this season is not really going the way we wanted it to go. We
Yeah,
obviously want them to go as far as they possibly can, but we knew that they had some major changes that needed to happen. And it was just kind of like pulling teeth watching them for most of the season, right? Like you said, they would be good one moment, they'd be bad the next moment. And
right.
they had kind of got a groove to them the second half of the season when Draymond came back and they would start playing a lot better, but we still saw that there was a ceiling that was under what we expected for them. So when they lost, especially in the fashion in which they lost, the blowout, um, it was just kind of like, okay, whatever, let's get done with this season. Let's move on to the next season. And again, it just kind of was almost like a poetic way to end the season because even though they were playing better in the second half of the season, they still had the same flaws, right? Like
Yeah,
Clay ain't what he used to be in terms of reliable second option offense. He needs probably to be a third option. Somebody set him up. So
yeah,
when we watched the game like the Kings, they put a lot of pressure on him. He couldn't really score. I mean, couldn't really. So he couldn't score at all. Right, 0 for 10.
yeah, 0 points.
Uh, yeah, like nobody else on the team could generate offense but Steph, and just athleticism kind of put them, put their backs against the wall and stuff like that. So it was a good way to push them into the offseason that they need to have.
Yeah.
So just in hindsight, I think it was appropriate for them for the season to end that day.
Yeah, I tend to agree, man. Like when it happened, I was like, desperately needed, like in the sense of like a wake up call. Like it's time to make drastic changes here. Like I don't know where you start, but it's time to make changes. But I want to get your thoughts on like that game because there was a lot of things that was confusing me. Like number one, the defensive coverage. Like for some reason, Steve Kerr decided to put Trace on Harrison Barnes, which is a guy who stands out on the perimeter. And mind you, all season long, we wasn't really doing that with Trace, like having him guard guys on the perimeter. So what was your initial thoughts on that when you seen it?
I thought it was a bad idea, and it ended up being a bad idea, right? They also um went under, like the coverages allowed Keegan Murray to get wide open a lot from
Yes.
three, and
Yeah.
he absolutely blitzed the Warriors. He's like the one guy on their team because they didn't have Monk, they didn't have Herter, so he was the one guy on their team who was really deadly from three. Like other guys can get hot, but they weren't legit knockdown shooters. So they playing Keegan Murray like he's just another run of the mill shooter. And even though his numbers might have been down this season, he's still knocked down, right? And he burned
Yeah.
them for it. I think he had 30 something plus. So it didn't really make a lot of sense. And I mean, I don't know um, if people are familiar with Joe Virai, but like he does a lot of film
Yeah.
breakdowns
He
for
does.
the Warriors, and he highlighted it as soon as the game was over. He put like the way the Warriors guarded the Kings earlier in the season was way different than the way they guarded them at that playing tournament game. So it was just another reason why they just needed to end their season right there because clearly everything just wasn't clicking the way it's supposed to be this year, and it just wasn't the year for them.
Yeah, for sure, man. Also, like another thing, like offensively as well, like we couldn't really, run our sets the way we normally like to operate things. It was a lot of ISO play. I felt like, but it's just a shout out to the Sacramento Kings defense as well. Like they was,
Mhm.
they didn't allow us to run the pin down actions and etc. What we normally like to run. It was a lot of ISO for sure, but yeah, it was desperately needed for that to happen. Though you hit it on the head with that. But diving on into the next question, like ideal off-season targets and trades that you have your eyes set on that you think will ultimately help this team get over the hump.
Mhm. Well, I mean, the hot topic right now is Levine, right? Like everybody's talking about
Yeah,
Chicago.
yeah,
Um, I mean, earlier on, I think I was off Levine a lot more because of the money aspect and what you would have to give up to get him. A lot of people were proposing Clay for Levine,
yeah,
and I still think a Clay for Levine swap straight up is just not what people think it would be. Like Levine's a better offensive player right now for sure. Um, he can handle more. He puts more pressure on the rim. He's younger, all of those things. But I do think there's still holes in the roster elsewhere that
right,
if you bring in Levine and just drop off Clay, the same problems exist, right? It's still only Steph and Levine as the guys who can shoot, and
yeah,
teams would be loading up on them to stop them. Now, if there was a path, which there is a path, it's far fetched, but if there's a path to get Levine and keep Clay and grab like Caruso or maybe like another role player or something from that team that can play some defense. I think that's intriguing. They just, I mean, as a team, they need a game changing offensive player. They need a game changing defensive player. Right, Draymond needs some help on D, and and Steph needs some help on offense. Right, so Levine and Caruso as a package would be something that I would look at. Brandon Ingram's another guy who everybody keeps bringing his name up because he didn't
yeah,
have a great season or a great end to the season with New Orleans, and they're pretty much planning on blowing that up in some capacity, right? Getting him out of there or something like that. So
right,
maybe CJ. So I would look into grabbing him. But the thing is, when you bring in a guy like Bi, it's like you got to bring in some type of defense with him. You got to bring in some size with him. He
yeah,
doesn't fix all your issues. So whatever they do, I would be looking to acquire multiple players, whether it's two different trades or acquire two or three guys in one single trade. I would be looking to do that, right? So I mean, other names that's out there. You're looking at Brooklyn, asking about Mikal Bridges, right? He's an offensive and defensive player that can really help them. You're looking at Nick Claxton from Brooklyn as well. Um, Jimmy Butler's name's been floated out there. He's getting a little older and he wants a max extension. So that's where you kind of got to be like, I don't know about that. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to maximize Steph's window, I think getting a guy like Jimmy could potentially help do that, right? You just go all in for the next 2 seasons and see where it goes. But I would explore some other options before I got to him. And
right.
yeah, I think just off the top of my head, those are the main guys. I mean, Laurie's always always the prize, right? You're looking at Lloyd Marketing and you saying like if you can get him, that's a big, game changer right there because of the his offensive prowess and his size, right? So he covers two weaknesses for the team. And yeah, I think that's those are the main guys I think of right now.
Yeah, for sure. I love all those names that you mentioned for the right reason, and I feel like we both on the same page as far as the Warriors. Like, you can't just go out there and sign two minimum guys and call it an off season. You just can't do that. So
Mm.
I say at bare minimum, man, there has to be at least two good trades that'll help you. At least get back to the mountaintop for sure. At least two trades. And
Hmm.
I love that you brought it to Zach Levine because actually I seen a free trades on Twitter and I got them right here that caught my attention and I'm going to listen to you. So it was for Zach Levine and Caruso, the Warriors would give CP, Payton, Moody, and Looney. Now I don't know if the Bulls would be interested in this package because maybe they can get a better deal. But I mean, what are your thoughts on like a Chris Paul, Payton, Looney, and Moody for Caruso and Levine? Me personally, I feel like that'll be a damn good deal considering the fact that we can also keep Wiggs and Clay.
Mm. If the money works, we got to. Does the money work on that for sure?
Yeah, if it sure work, yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Then I mean that would be cool. That would be great, right? Like,
Right.
you don't give up any of your real like high level wings, right? That you expect to be those guys, Wiggins, Clay, Kaminga. You keep all three of those guys, and you bring in a Levine and a Caruso.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be kind of a home run right there. I think they still would probably try to trade one of the three, one of Kaminga, Wiggins, and Clay still, even if you do that deal, just to
Yeah.
bolster other areas of the roster and kind of consolidate minutes because you bringing in two more wings and you keeping all your other good wings. You
Yeah.
gotta like somebody got to go at that point, but that would be a start right there. Um, like I said, you bringing in an offensive guy that can help, and you bringing in a defensive guy that's a game changer. So, like you said, they need at least two trades, or they just need a trade that can bring in those type of players, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody, like I said, that can guard point of attack a little bit or protect the rim or both, and somebody that can get their own shot and play within the flow of the offense. Those are probably priorities for me.
Yeah. So that's one trade. Then the other trade, as you mentioned, like if they were to do that trade, obviously you would think that Clay, Kaminga, Wiggs would be in the mix of being dealt out. So here's another trade that caught my attention. Now the realistic of this happening, I don't really know. Maybe we had to add more like picks or maybe another valuable piece, but it was basically just Wiggs for Allen straight up. Now I don't know if the Cavaliers just do
Mm.
that straight up. I think we may have to add like picks or whatnot. But me personally, if they're down to do it, then I'll definitely be down to do it. A guy who can provide rim protection, lob threat. On certain occasions you can throw the ball down low to him. He can get you a bucket. Just depends on the matchup that's on him. But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on a trade like that, Wiggins for Allen?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd be all for that. They would definitely have to throw in probably some first round picks or something
Yeah,
like
for
that because
sure. Yeah.
yeah, Allen's value is so much higher than Wiggins right now. But that's the type of trade that I think helps both teams because the Cavs need a wing.
Right.
They need a 6'8" guy, not just like a Max Struess kind of wing. They need a legit athlete on the perimeter.
Yeah.
And the Warriors can benefit from a guy like Jared Allen tremendously. Like you
Yeah.
said, you listed all of his things that he does well. He protects the rim, he runs the floor, he's a fluid athlete. I mean, for most of the season, he averaged about 18 points a game. I think his
Yeah.
season average is somewhere around under 17. But like once Mobley got hurt, and I think Garland got hurt too,
Yeah.
he really stepped his game up and was playing at a crazy high level for a while there. So monster rebounder, and I think he's the type of player that if you put him next to Steph, you put him next to Draymond on both ends, he takes a mini leap, gets a little bit better.
Hmm.
So like he can be similar to a JaVale and a Bogut type of guy, right? Like kind of the
Yeah.
best of both of those guys. Um, and that would unlock a lot of things. We already saw what Trace could do with the Warriors next to those guys. Imagine a guy who's a veteran, who's been an all-star before, who has a lot of the similar gifts and more, and legit, 6'11" with long arms, 6'10". That would be that would be huge for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You hit it on the head for all the right reasons. I just don't think that Trace is quite ready to be a starting center on a championship caliber team. Back up big for sure. He could definitely be a star in that role. And yeah, man, you
Mhm.
mentioned Allen. He did play pretty well when Garland went down. I just thought about it and Mobley. So yeah, that's a good point that you brought up there. But Yeah, I would love to see Allen on this team. I feel like he'll flourish well with these guys, the way we like to operate. And as you mentioned, he can run up and down the floor. You know, with Steph get hot, it's coming out, pin down there, feed him. Same with Clay. And if we were to
Mhm.
get Zach LaVine, I feel like it'll be a nice piece for sure for us to get. And you also brought up Jimmy Butler. Honestly, like with the Jimmy situation, like I understand where you're coming from, like from a win now perspective. Like he's definitely going to want an extension of where to trade for him, but it's tricky from the perspective of like an age thing. Like it's an
Mhm.
age and superstar we're talking about here, but if you can get him to, line his deal up with Steph, that'll definitely be nice. And I may consider like if you were to do Kaminga in pieces, then hey, I don't see why not. Because Jimmy Butler, when he's right, he's that guy for sure. And if you pair him along with Steph, it could be a nice sight to see. But yeah,
Mhm.
those trades that I just listed, it'll be nice for those guys to go out there and make it happen. But only time will tell. We're less than a month away from the offseason, so yeah. But moving on to the next topic, and that's if the Warriors decide to move on from CP3. Do you think that Paz is ready to be the backup point guard for this team?
Yeah, I think so. I think he should have been that this season. Honestly, he understands the game. I mean, he should be taking a leap next season in terms of who knows how big of a leap, but he should be better. And I think he was already ready this season.
Yeah,
It's a matter of high leverage moments and playoff moments, stuff like that. Can you run the second unit offense in a playoff setting against one of the better teams in the league? That's remains to be seen, but I think he's ready for it because he has the IQ. He's going to be stronger. He's going to be a better shooter next season. So, yeah, I definitely think so, and I think he's probably better suited at that position than at the two because there's going to be better athletes at the two, more size at the two.
mhm,
Especially I mean, even coming off the bench, there's just going to be guys that he has to guard that he you know shouldn't have to. Right, he should be surrounded by four guys that are better athletes or bigger than him, so they can just put him on whoever they need to, instead of
right.
just putting him on somebody that he shouldn't be guarding. So, and he'll have more responsibility. So, yeah, I think he'll definitely be ready for it, and I hope they do put him in that position and kind of move on from CP3, just because they just need more out of that salary slot from
Yeah,
than CP3 can provide. It's just too much money to somebody who's just plays the same position as your best player and has glaring weaknesses when you pair him next to your best player. So,
yeah. I tend to agree. I love what CP have done for us this past season, but you mentioned it for the right reason. Like, you just can't be paying this guy 30 million. You just got to move on. And for all the right reasons that you listed, just pause, man. I feel like he's ready to take that leap to take the responsibility of being a backup point guard in this league. He has shown different flaws last season. He can handle it. Although at times it could get rocky with him, but also understand he was a rookie last season, so
mhm.
mistakes are bound to happen. So, but I definitely feel like him learning from Steph and Dre. Even CP, he definitely took some things to ride with, and that he'll definitely like go and be better in the off season for sure. But yeah, man. Just like another question that we really didn't discuss before the show, but with Clay contract, right? It's kind of like tricky in a sense of ways, but I know you're a huge Clay guy, so
Mhm.
what is a reasonable deal you feel like for Clay? Like, because me personally, I want him to, ride it out in the sunset with Steve, Steph, and Dre. I feel like it's only right at this point. But what is a reasonable deal you feel like a reasonable number for him to sign with the Golden State Warriors this offseason?
Yeah, I'd probably say anything at Dre's level or lower, right? I'm not going to say he should make at least this number, because if he want to come back for 8 million a year, then it's like take 8 million a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, so like Dre's number is like a 23, 24 a year. Like
yeah,
that's probably the absolute most I would pay Clay. Um, and even that's like kind of high. So I mean, just based on the season he had and how you project him going forward, I'll probably put him in the high teens, 20 million at around the most per year. Um, and I think with Clay, it's just a matter of like security and having him, maybe for another year. Maybe his contract ends the year that Draymond's ends instead of Steph's.
yeah,
And it's all about finding that reasonable number. And it's going to be tricky because if they trade CP3, if they make some of these trades, they get hard capped um,
yeah,
at the second apron. So depending on how much money they have left, in cap space, not even in cap space, but like in space before they get to the second apron, that could
Yes.
be all they can offer to Clay. Um, and I'm not really sure, how they can work those contracts out, but maybe they sign him to a 1+1 deal where they sign him to a lower number than he really wants for this upcoming season. They give him a player option for next season, he declines it, and then they sign him for like a bigger number that next off season or something like that. But who knows if he wants to take that gamble again? I doubt it. So
Yeah.
they're gonna have to, find some type of middle ground. Like you said, I hope they keep him because not even just from a legacy standpoint with him, being a Warrior until he retires, which I think is a very important thing. But just from a basketball standpoint, you need a guy of his skill set on your team, a guy with size that can shoot, that teams respect as a shooter. I mean, with
Yeah.
Clay, they do more than respect him, right? They face
Right.
guard him. So that's tremendous for creating space for Steph. That's tremendous for creating space for other guys on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And, you want to keep that type of player around. I don't think you can just replace him with like a Malik Beasley or some other random
No, not even
shooter
close.
in the league. So, um, yeah, just anywhere in that high teens would be ideal. Mid like 15 to 19 a year would be ideal. I think something. What did Dante get? Dante got something like that. So
Yeah, Dante got like 10 mil a year. It basically
yeah,
goes up, yeah, like a 4 year, $54 million deal or something like that.
yeah, something in that range. No, something I'm thinking of Grayson Allen. Grayson got like 17 a year or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Grayson got paid. Yeah,
Yeah, so somewhere in that Grayson range, just from a team building standpoint, like I think he's better than Grayson, but
yeah.
um, just from keeping your options available in terms of like adding other talent and making sure the contracts are right on your personal team, taking a little bit less than you might get on the open market, kind of Spurs like. I think that would be the best thing for both sides for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting because I've seen a lot of reports that the Magic, the Sixers, and a lot of teams with a lot of cap space are linked to Clay, and they're going to like throw a bag at him. I could possibly imagine, but you hit it
Mhm,
on the head for all the right reasons. Like I could see the Warriors offer him like between 17 to 21. I feel like that's pretty fair. Like you can line his contract up with Steph, Dre, whichever one is cool. But yeah, I just want to see him retire, Roy. And as you mentioned, like one thing I can say, like no matter how bad Clay shooting the game, like teams still respect him. Like if he go 0 for 6 from three, they're still going to face guard him. He's still a threat out there because Clay can get hot at any moment. He's shown it in history. So yeah, I mean, I love to see him stay with the team, provide size 6'7", still can shoot with the best of them. And
mhm,
yeah, I just feel like it's just the right thing to do. I just as a Warrior fan, I really just can't imagine Clay playing for another team. It'd just be a weird sight to see, man. Just
for sure.
seeing him play for like a Magic or the Sixers it'd just be kind of crazy. But in the NBA, man, you really never know what may go down. And yeah, you definitely just can't replace him for a guy on a minimum contract by any means, like a Malik Beasley, as you mentioned, or the list goes on and on. You just can't replace Clay just like this. So. Yeah, but that pretty much wraps up this episode, everybody. Make sure that I'm gonna leave all the Justin links on X and his YouTube page as well. And make sure you give him a subscription and follow him on X. And yeah, man, thank you for coming on for sure.
I appreciate you. Anytime.
Yeah, and yeah, with that being said, we out. Peace.